Nice.
Finally.
High quality audio.
Hey, welcome to The Question, a Blog Talk radio conversation with me, Doug Pagitt, your host. And joining me on Wednesdays for the second half of the show is our good friend, home repair expert, home remodeler, and property investments expert.
That's the first time I've had that title.
I'm making stuff up. Steve Sherber, and we talk on Wednesdays about houses, home remodeling, home repair, my front steps, all kinds of things. And this is a part of a show that we call The Question, which broadcasts every weekday from 10 till 11 until we hit the summer schedule here, maybe even as early as next week, where then the show will be on one time a week for 2 hours rather than every day for an hour. Because I'm going to be traveling some this summer, and a whole number of things going on that preclude me from doing the show every single day in the summer. But I can do it once a week, so we're going to have to figure out who comes in when and when they come in. But for now, things are just as they're supposed to be. Joined by Steve Sherber, where we will talk about the home repair and remodeling industry and our own lives with it. Steve-O.
Our house.
Our house. Steve's been on since January, and it is the middle of May, and I finally got the startup audio right on your segment of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this could be one of the last full Wednesday segments of the show.
Really?
Well, yeah, because I'm going to the week, the once a week, and it might not be on Wednesdays. Yeah. I got kids home from school today.
Throwing a party over
Son
there.
Taylor, I hope I'm not liable. What's going on in there? I don't want to be arrested. Taylor, my son has the mononucleosis virus and strep throat.
Jeez.
Yeah, I live in a petri dish.
Well, your house is so leaky it won't matter.
It's letting me.
It self-ventilates.
Steve, there was a topic in the news that I wanted to say for this section. And I was all encouraged. Steve and I both not only live in houses, not only have to fix the houses we live in, but we also own properties that other people live in. Well, for each of us includes this one, the ones we also live in that other people live in. But we have homes that we don't live in that other people do live in. And I was encouraged to see that in April, the metro area home sales were up 23.8%, all due to foreclosed homes that banks are dumping. So in the short run, that's not particularly good news. But in the long run, maybe we're going to get all these off the market and get back to those glory days when house prices were unbelievably inflated and we could make money for doing nothing. And I thought that was the promise.
I've seen nothing but good news in the housing industry. I mean, especially in the remodeling. I definitely agree that my speaker needs to be adjusted.
You got it.
New home construction is definitely tanked, and I think it's going to be a while before that thing comes back around. But remodel is.
But you picked a good time to be in the remodeling world.
Yeah. I just saw an article. It was the top 10 jobs of the future, top 10 green jobs of the future.
Top 10 green jobs.
And one of
home
them is
remodeling.
home remodeler.
Really?
Yeah.
It seems that no matter what you do in that industry, which could be important innovations, ever reaching the level of being green, which I imagine means good for the environment, it can't exist. Like, that's just an industry that
I think purple is equally as good for the environment.
Yeah. I mean, how could a home remodeler ever honestly? I mean, I guess you could be less bad,
I think what the article was saying was the jobs that are going to be in demand, where there's going to be a market for the services that they provide, and we've talked about since the beginning of this radio show, this business that we've been pursuing that's trying to go after a market that we think is kind of coming up. That's the home improvement, weatherization, home performance sort of genre, where people are saying, well, instead of just adding luxury to the house, we want to add performance to the house. We want the house to perform better from an energy efficiency standpoint, an indoor air quality standpoint, sustainability, durability, these types of things. And I think what we're seeing is that as this conversation of green has really started to fester, if you will, over the last 5 years, people are really starting to catch on to what is green. The days of the old, sort of green do-it-yourself shows where green was really a can of paint or a recycled this or a recycled this, I think, are in the past. And I think homeowners are starting to become more educated on what truly is green. Matter of fact, I think we're going to stop using that word green because it just doesn't mean anything.
No, I was going to say it can't mean it. I don't know what it could possibly mean.
Yeah. So in our business, we've switched to the word high performance. High performance meaning performing higher at a higher level than what typically is on the market.
Yeah, even green performance, I could see that.
Yeah.
It's
right.
That the green becomes an adjective rather than the noun.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
Because it's befuddling to me, at least.
Right.
How that.
So,
that industry.
We did just simply stated, we did this job yesterday. We were out at a house doing some diagnostics on this job and being able to figure out all the little things that were wrong with this house. This is a homeowner that called. This is probably one of the most typical scenarios that we get calls for. We have ice dams. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what ice dams are, either you don't live in the area or any sort of area that reaches temperatures that produce ice frequently.
Yeah.
But ice dams are a phenomena that happens on houses that have eaves being the overhang at the top of the wall, where what happens is in the attic area is supposed to be as cold as the outside, and what happens is you get a layer of snow on the roof. Snow acts as an insulator, so any amount of heat that escapes into the attic will then be trapped in the attic because snow is insulating that roof. That heat will eventually melt the snow on the bottom layer of the roof, trickle down to the eave where it's cold again because now it's outside of the footprint of the house, freeze, and that cycle continues.
And is there normally a gutter there, or does it not matter?
Typically there's a gutter, but if you've ever seen ice dam happen, it also is coupled with icicles.
Yeah.
So what happens is that water trickles into the gutter, hits the gutter, and freezes. Well, then the gutter fills with ice, and then that ice dam starts building. Mm-hmm. And you typically will see icicles hanging over.
Yeah, it looks really pretty.
Yeah, and some people actually hang lights to try to make it look
like they have icicles.
Yeah. When all they need to do is put a heater in the attic, and they can get the real thing.
That's funny.
So the problem with ice dams is it causes a hazard of falling icicles, but more importantly, that as water puddles at the top of that dam, it then works its way up under the shingle, does a lot of damage to the eaves and the roof. So we get a lot of calls to repair that type of thing, but more importantly, ice dams are a symptom of a greater problem that's going on in the house. So most of the time,
how's that? What's the answer to that? What are you supposed to do?
Well, you know that heat rises, or I should say not heat, but hot air rises.
Hot air rises, yeah.
And there's a thing in a house called stack effect. Stack effect is the idea that you can get an upward draft in a house simply because the air in the house is warm and it wants to rise, and you can actually get an upward draft through the entire house. Uh-huh. And so what that means is because air is drafting upwards, the majority of your heat loss potential is in the actual ceiling or the interface of your attic. So a low amount of insulation and air seal, meaning stuff that prevents air infiltration in the attic, will allow this upward draft from the stack effect to actually push into the attic, and you can lose a lot of your heat to the attic.
Huh.
A lot more so than you would lose to a wall or to a window. And so dealing with the attic space, the insulation that belongs in the attic, which would typically be on the ceiling of the top floor of the house, is one of the easiest places to make a large impact on your energy efficiency. It's low-hanging fruit for us. But basically what we often do is we go in and we pull out all the old insulation that's in there, and then we spray polyurethane foam just an inch on the surface of the lid. And what this is doing is creating a bypass seal between the house and the attic, air sealing it all. And then we put in a less expensive insulation, blown cellulose, which is up to an R50 rating, which is a certain depth that gives us an insulative value for the conduction portion of heat transfer. And just that alone can save you 30% on your energy bill. Just that feature.
It's like Geico.
Totally.
Save
Just
you
by making a call.
just by making a call, I can save 30%. Well, we're going to get back to that in a minute here. For those of you who are watching on the YouTube side, those of you that are on the Blog Talk Radio side, you know that this is a radio program. You can just keep listening. Those of you watching, you can just keep watching. For those of you watching the archive on YouTube, you're going to have to go to the next video. So this is a Blog Talk Radio conversation called The Question with Doug Pagitt and Steve Scherber. News brought to you by the Onion Radio Network.
A stunned